So today we'll be talking about affordable programs in awesome cities. And if you have any technical difficulties during the call, you're welcome to send a private message to our ISEP Study Abroad person, Rory, who can help you sort out any issues that you might be having. So my name is Melody Stratton. I am the Director of Strategic Communications at ISEP. I started in February, in perfect timing for the pandemic. And I also have served as an outbound ISEP advisor at the University of Kansas. I did marketing, recruitment, and managed our peer advisors as well there. And I'm actually an ISEP alum as well. So I have a lot of love for ISEP.
My name is Zach Tobin. I'm the Director of Member Relations for the Eastern United States. And I come from a university background. I've been at ISEP a little over a year now, but I've worked at, I think, 6 universities before this, most recently at the University of Michigan. But before that, I was at the Northern Arizona University for a little over 4.5 years and worked with ISEP students, mostly on the outbound side, but definitely have a pretty good sense for the roles that most of you have working with your students and trying to figure out where ISEP fits in that picture.
Hi everyone, my name is Heather Schloss and I'm the Student Advisor for Asia and the Pacific. I started at ISEP just over a year ago as the Member Relations Intern, but then I transitioned into the Student Advisor role in October and have loved this region and advising for it. While I didn't participate in an ISEP program myself, I'm really excited about these programs and I will be working with any students interested in coming to Asia or the Pacific.
Okay, so I'll get us started, mostly just talking about how we work to keep our programs affordable for students and some just general guidelines and tips as you work with students who are interested in participating in ISEP programs or any study abroad program, really. ISEP, many of you likely know, was founded in 1979 as an exchange organization. That's been part of our mission ever since, is to facilitate exchange across over 50 countries. We have around 350 members that are split between the US and internationally. And one of the great things about ISEP, one of the things I really appreciate, is that we've been able to leverage our existing member institution base that works with exchange to allow for us to be providing additional direct enroll programs by using our existing relationship on the exchange basis. We use existing staff, coursework, housing, and campus resources. And that allows us to keep our overhead costs fairly low, which we as a nonprofit use to our advantage to keep our costs low across the board. And so one of the things I'm really proud of with ISEP is that for our ISEP Direct programs, beyond the exchange programs that we have, we also can offer them at a fairly low rate because we are able to use our excellent member institutions that can provide that immersive experience. And that's the second point here, is that we really want to prioritize that authentic local experience within a sustainable structure, a cost-effective structure for students. So what we don't specialize in are island programs and centers where students kind of come to a campus community or come to a center and are surrounded only by other study abroad students. The real benefit, I think, of our ISEP Direct programs, as well as our exchange, because in many ways they're interchangeable, is that they are taking local classes with local faculty amongst local students. And that's something we're really proud of, and we're able to keep that on a fairly low cost basis. And like I said, our primary goal is just to keep costs low for students. And anytime we're making a new program, we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we keep our overhead costs low while still being able to provide that level of service for folks? Okay, next slide. And so just a couple tips, both working with a number of member institutions around the world, as well as being at a member institution myself, working with students, and really being at a really cost-conscious campus. I had students most recently at a member institution where I think 40% of the incoming freshmen were all first gen. And we had a very high number of Pell students. And so really looking at different ways that we can make sure to support students in different financial situations. So one of the things I always recommend our coordinators and advisors do is not be afraid to ask students about their current cost of attendance, to really get a sense of, how are they funding their school? Is it through loans? Is it through grants? Are there certain financial restrictions that the student has? Because once you know what it really is, what the cost of attendance for that student really is, you're able to then help advise and find the right program for them, and find programs that may actually be a lower cost than in-person coursework at their home institution. So I've found that just asking students that question, some are absolutely oblivious. They have no idea how much it's costing to go to school. I have no idea how they're paying for it. But a majority of students actually do have a pretty good sense for that. And knowing how they're funding school really helps you guide them in the right way to help them find the most cost-effective option for them, if that's the highest priority for them. And also being prepared to recognize the challenges a lot of students face, not just in the cost of attendance, but the opportunity cost to study abroad. A lot of students have on-campus jobs or jobs off campus that help them with their studies. Some of them live at home and are living with their family to help offset the cost of going to college for 4 years or more. And so being prepared to provide those ideas and tips on how they may be able to look for different scholarships that could supplement that, or finding a program where it's actually possible to work abroad, are different ways that you can try to use that information to help the student make the best choice for them. I'd say also the scholarship resources, like I was talking about, not just mentioning them in the appointment that you're in or in an initial conversation, but also right when you're done with that conversation and you're talking about different program options, never leave out the idea that they can apply for scholarships and which scholarships might specifically apply to them, and just maintain that momentum moving forward. And then, if the program costs are very similar to the in-person costs at your home school, don't be afraid to say that. Talk about that dynamic and be ready to surprise some students with some programs that might be a lower cost actually than study abroad. I've had programs, both ISEP and otherwise, that I've worked with students at campuses I've worked at, where I legitimately and ethically could say, this program, even with your flight, will cost less than what you're paying to study here for. And so students then can take that to their parents, then they can kind of leave with that information. And most students never can imagine that in a million years. So being prepared to share that. And then helping students compare those options. When you're looking at different options for students, even if they say cost is the number one factor, they may be a little reluctant to share that it actually may be a really high factor for them. If they're looking for the right fit academically, or if they're looking for the right fit from a country perspective, still sharing those costs when you're comparing the program, so that they can really take that information and not just leave it on the table where they maybe weren't comfortable saying that was an important consideration for them. Oh, did we skip a slide there? Yep, there we go. And so for how you're supporting students during the program itself, and maybe once they've selected a program, how you can support them, ISEP has the ability for our ISEP Direct programs to set it up so that the university pays the application fee, the deposit, the program fee. And the way this is helpful, if you can swing it at your institution, is that sometimes those costs are set up to be due before financial aid disperses. And there's not a lot of ways around that financial aid disbursement date. We've tried to find different creative ways to tackle that. But if you can work it out at your institution that you can set up for the university pays and then have the student pay your institution for that, usually that definitely helps with their financial aid disbursement date. They're not trying to secure funds ahead of time. And so if you are unaware of whether you're doing that with ISEP, or if you would like to explore that more, please reach out to myself or a university relations manager in the United States. If you're an international member, reach out to your international university relations manager, and we can explore different ways to set that up, because we do find that it's been very, very helpful for a number of our institutions and students. And what we're doing is continuing to develop cost of living calculators, providing budget tips from previous program participants, setting up sessions. I've done this at previous institutions where I set up a session about how to save money in your study abroad program, how to budget for your study abroad program. Don't leave that out of your pre-departure orientations, because a lot of students, while they're on campus, they kind of have a set meal plan and housing. And so trying to figure out ways to help give them those tools before they go, because it can go very quickly if you don't budget. And within all this, always prioritizing their safety. When we're talking about different housing options or different meal options, thinking about, okay, what does that look like on the ground there, and not necessarily throwing that out the window when you're just looking at trying to find the lowest cost for students. And so, like I said, we were able to, I think, leverage our ISEP Exchange members to provide a really awesome set of ISEP Direct options. And just as a refresher for why ISEP Direct, I think it's a really great option for students, even if there's an ISEP Exchange option on the table at your institution. ISEP Direct is more affordable for some students, depending on the institution they're coming for, than ISEP exchanges. And that depends on what your on-campus tuition, housing, meals looks like. That depends on whether you're providing a tuition waiver for that student. A lot of factors come into play there. But ISEP exchange isn't always the most effective and affordable option for students at ISEP member institutions. So trying to figure out where that fits in the grand scheme of things. And so ultimately, we're at ISEP trying to find what's in the best interest and the best fit for students. We do trainings on how to promote our programs ethically, how to make sure that the students' best interests are the actual first priority of every ISEP advisor when they're working with students. We're not just about increasing enrollments at all costs. We're really about finding the right fit for students. And so I know sometimes it can be seen as either or ISEP Direct or Exchange, what's better. We really try to find the best fit for each student and encourage you to do the same. With ISEP Direct also, we have the guaranteed placement process, which means that a student has the agency to say and point out a map, that's the place I want to go, that's the program I want to go on. And we're able to provide that option for students where they kind of know exactly what's going to happen. Whereas Exchange, sometimes there is a little uncertainty when you have to rank schools in order of preference. If a student has pretty strict course requirements or pretty narrow idea of what classes they need to take, the field of study guides for our direct programs can be really helpful, and it helps, again, give the student more agency in making sure that that corresponds to the place they're going with the classes. A lot of our ISEP Direct programs have different options when it comes to housing and meals. Some offer just housing, some offer housing and meals, and so allowing students the flexibility to pick a program that really fits within that context. And then just the fact that we have a little bit more flexibility with our deadlines. September 15th or February 15th are our deadlines for priority placement for Exchange. ISEP Direct does not adhere to those two specific deadlines, and you have deadlines all the way until December for ISEP Direct going into spring. And so you have a lot of different flexible dates to work with students. So I know I'd always get these students that would come in after deadlines and say, I don't care where I go, I just want to go. So those are some of my favorite students, and you still can have some opportunities with ISEP Direct after our priority deadlines.
Okay, great. Thanks, Zach. So today we're going to be talking about three of some of our favorite programs. We'll be talking about Ewha Women's University, Pontificia Universidad Católica de Valparaíso, and Thammasat University in Thailand. So we picked these programs specifically for this session because they have accessible and popular fields of study. They include tuition and housing in the fees. The meals are either included or very affordable. All of the cities, even though they are world-class cities, have a low cost of living. They have accessible and affordable public transportation. And we know from previous students attending these institutions that there are a lot of cultural activities on campus and in the host city that are either free or low cost, so students can engage with the community without necessarily having to spend extra money. So you'll get this presentation. I'm not going to delve too far into this, but you can see here on this slide what the minimum GPA is. If they accept sophomores, which they all do, they're all available as direct and exchange, and they all earn, you can earn at least a minimum of 12, but actually you can earn up to 18 or more on all of these programs. And Heather, who's with us today, is the student advisor for both Ewha and Thammasat, and then Maggie Montgomery is the advisor for Valparaíso. Okay.
Wonderful. So we can just dive on in with Ewha Women's University. Ewha is an all-women's university, but their international program is co-ed, and they welcome men to their campus every year. It is centrally located in Seoul, but the district that it is in is the University District. So in this metropolitan city, it is very youthful, very fun area where you're going to find a lot of young adults spending time and having various activities. So right outside of the university's front door, there are going to be museums, walking tours, temples, plenty to keep students busy. And within Seoul, there's also really affordable travel connections if a student wants to explore South Korea or expand into other countries or regions in Asia. So a really connected area to be in and great for ISEP students. So as Melody had mentioned previously, this program does include housing, tuition, and health insurance. And we also wanted to provide a breakdown of estimated expenses that a student might be planning on spending as well. So this is going to include flights, this is going to include food, books, course materials, all of those we wanted to factor in to kind of give a more holistic experience and expectation for our students. it's important to note that meals and groceries are really affordable, as is transportation within Seoul. The visa process is simple and affordable as well, but if there are any questions, a student can always contact their student services coordinator. And within Seoul, students can receive discounts on everything from bus rides and bubble tea. So there's a lot of ways to get the most bang for your buck in Seoul. And there's also ISEP students may be really competitive for federal and international scholarships. So those are just other ways to kind of dock down the price that we've already found. So our estimated comprehensive expenses are just over $15,000.
Sorry about that, Heather.
No worries. Moving on to academic options. Ewha has really wonderful options across a variety of fields of study. One thing in particular that I like to highlight for Ewha is their natural sciences and their STEM options. They have a lot of really great course options in physics, chemistry, biology, and those are sometimes harder to find in other programs in Asia. So this is a really great option for those students, but that's not to say that the other programs aren't equally as wonderful and well supported for students. They really have their pick between business, English literature, international relations, economics, and then local local studies too. So there's going to be a really great option and variety for students to pick from. And these are just a few examples of classes that are either commonly sought after by ISEP students or things that students are often trying to get credit for while abroad. When it comes to housing, ISEP students will be housed in the International House. And as you can see from the picture, it's a very modern, very sleek design. It's a very nice dorm, which I'm sure any ISEP student would be happy with. The dorms are co-ed, and the students are going to be from a diverse set of backgrounds. So it's going to really enhance that international aspect to residential life. There will also, upon availability, single rooms can be requested, but they will be provided at an additional cost. So if a student is interested in that, they can just let me know and we can move forward with see if those are available. When it comes to cultural interaction and engagement, Ewha does offer a peace study or a peace buddy program, and this is going to be a buddy system that provides academic help. They can help arrange local hangouts and cultural visits. It also just gives students kind of a local insight that they may not have otherwise as an international student. So it really helps with immersion and engaging with the community around them. Cultural excursions are also provided previously. Examples have been Korean cooking classes, a visit to the palace, a farm experience, and an eye party. For example, the farm experience takes students to a village just out of Seoul, and students get to see kind of a change of pace, a change of perspective as what kind of life in one of the South Korean villages looks like, and what the economics of that area looks like, and what is their kind of specialty. In regards to on-site support for ISEP students, the international team is really responsive. There's also plenty of mental and medical help if needed. There's English language mental health counseling, as well as a student health office available on campus. There's a hospital just adjacent to the campus, so hopefully students won't need it, but if a situation does arise, they are very close. And there's a beautiful student center that has easy access to campus services. So overall, why Ewha? This program really has a lot of opportunities to explore South Korean culture without leaving Seoul if a student doesn't want to, but it's also really connected if they do want to explore further. Seoul has a balance of this really rich history, but also pop culture. And as a major business and travel hub, they're going to be able to experience a lot of other Asian cultures as well in this city. Also, Ewha is a highly ranked university, and so this is going to really contribute to the academic quality and instruction that students will receive. So who should go? Overall, students seeking a high quality academic experience, this program does or is offered at an affordable price, and courses are taught in English, a wide variety of courses. As I mentioned earlier, pre-med majors, engineering majors, business, they really do have a great pick across different fields. So it becomes much more accessible for a lot of students who sometimes think that they won't be able to get those credits that they need while they're abroad. Also in Seoul, students get to really experience a large city, a very metropolitan city, very modern, but in a safe and supportive environment. So that's something that we always like to highlight for Ewha, that it's a good blend of history and new and support, but metropolitan.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about Pontificia Universidad Católica de Valparaíso, which we in ISEP either refer to as Valpo or PUCV. It is located in the cultural heart of Chile, right next to the ocean. It is within 2 hours of world-class resorts, skiing, beaches, museums, vineyards, hiking. So there's really something for everyone. The entire city of Valparaíso is known as sort of like an artistic hub. So there's music and art everywhere. It's very easy for students to travel the region on affordable and safe buses. You're about an hour and a half from Santiago, and the university itself is one of the most highly regarded institutions in Chile. So uniquely with this program, airport pickup is included, and this is a host family program, so all 3 meals per day are included, and students are actually provided with a single room, along with all linens, furniture, and anything else they might need. Volunteer opportunities are included as part of the program fee, and many of the courses designed for international students actually include site visits as well. The visa does require a little bit of extra effort, so it's good to be aware of that. They will have to go to the Chilean consulate, so being prepared to take on that travel and that expense is important for students at the beginning. And if you have any questions about that, I've helped students do that before, and I'm happy to answer them at the end. So really at PUCV, the best part of the program is that students can mix and match courses from all 3 areas of where classes are offered. And there are specific classes designed for international students. It would be ideal for an international relations or political science major. As you can see, there's also a Spanish language program that teaches beginning, writing, and speaking, as well as the intermediate and advanced levels. So you can send someone who's only had 1 semester of Spanish on this program if they are interested. If they have more advanced Spanish, they are able to take classes at the institution alongside local students in a number of different subjects. The classes are very good, and students can access tutoring for them, and they would need to be at a 300 level of Spanish in the United States. So when they reach that 300 level, they're ready to go. So as I said, students live with host families, which are trained by the on-site staff for emergencies, cultural adjustment, and to assist with language learning. They commit to integrating the student as a family member, and then the student commits to participating and being respectful of the family. All homestays include kitchen access, laundry, internet, and 3 meals per day, and they can accommodate most dietary restrictions without an additional charge. The university has a really active student body, and ISEP students are able to join different sports teams, participate in cultural activities, or participate in volunteer opportunities at community centers. With one is sponsored by UNESCO, and then Minga is part of a program helping students integrate and support communities that were affected by a fire. So the coordinators receive really, really positive reviews from students on our post-program evaluations. And we actually have one of them here with us today, so she can answer any questions you might have specifically about the program. There is academic tutoring for anyone who is in Spanish courses, as well as mental health and counseling services, and on-campus healthcare for a free or reduced price. So PUCV really does offer something for everyone. It's very centrally located. You can explore Chile really easily. It's a very bohemian city with art on every corner, delicious street food, music everywhere, and it is one of the top-ranked institutions in Latin America. So I would recommend this particular program as an alternative to Spain. If you have a student interested in going to Spain and they're really concerned about cost, they're going to have a lower cost of living in Chile, along with the really similar cultural and travel experiences. And the visa is actually, even though you do have to travel, it's a little bit easier to obtain. And then students who are looking to either begin or advance their Spanish or advance advanced Spanish speakers who are maybe in a different field of study and who are ready to take classes taught in Spanish in their field of study.
Wonderful. So moving to Thammasat University, Thammasat is located in Bangkok, Thailand. It's a beautiful city known for world famous street food, markets, and cultural festivals. At Thammasat, students can study at one of two campuses. One campus is Thammasat, which is located right in the center of the city, right downtown. It's actually right across the street from the Grand Palace. The Rangsit campus is just outside of the city. It's a little bit more of a suburban area. It's got a very relaxed, classic university vibe with all the classic support services as well. But this campus still has wonderful access to the heart of the city. There's a bike share offering there too. And it does host the largest rooftop garden in Asia, which is a very widespread, kind of widely known, not tourist attraction, but very popular site in Rangsit.
Sorry, there we go.
So in terms of budget and financing, the program fee does include a housing and meal stipend. There will be convenient, low-cost transportation within the region and also very, very affordable and delicious street food. Students will not have to sacrifice quality or quantity of food for the sake of $1. So it is really a great bargain and a great way to experience kind of the local culture and lifestyle through all the markets and street foods as well. Students will select university housing from a variety of options, and we'll get to that in a minute. But even just from the cost point of an $11,000 program fee and a $14,000 comprehensive budget, I mean, that's still a really wonderful deal for how much the students are going to indulge and experience in Bangkok. When it comes to academics at Thammasat, like I said, students can choose from one of two campuses, and all of the courses have to be on one campus. The bread and butter of Thammasat is really their business and international relations programs. Those are really well esteemed and high quality programs, as well as the others, but those are kind of the bread and butter of what they do well. Engineering, journalism, economics, Thai studies, these are also very popular for ISEP students to take as well. And you can see at the top where these offerings are for which campus. It's important to note that students will have to take 3 courses from one department, and then they can take 2 courses from another department. So this really gives students an opportunity to diversify the kind of courses that they want to take if they want to. They can take some that are more major specific, but if they want to add a few Thai studies courses as well, it gives them that opportunity.
Oh, all right.
For housing at Thammasat, the Thammasat campus, students have an option to live in a variety of university-approved off-campus housing options. They can select either a single or double room. At Rangsit, students will be able to choose between an off-campus or an on-campus dorm, or off-campus option or an on-campus dorm. And what's unique about this is, while students may be able to decide ahead of time which option they want, they will also be able to tour all of these options on site. So if they want to review all their options and see where they want to be housed for the remainder of their program, they do have that opportunity. Like I said earlier, students are going to receive a housing stipend. This is going to be in the local currency, which is going to just reduce any confusion for kind of converting that currency over. When it comes to cross-cultural learning, there's a really active international office to support ISEP students. There are plenty of activities to keep them busy, such as a foot and bicycle tour during orientation. There's also yoga and Thai massage classes, which, as you can imagine, are quite popular amongst ISEP students. I'm sure I would be signing up for the same class if I had the opportunity. There's a really active student body, and most local students also speak English. And so this just removes that barrier for language and helps that cultural engagement, that local engagement with local students, which is what we really love to build for ISEP students when they do get to direct enroll in these classes. There's also a TU 100 course, which is on civic education, and this includes a service learning project. So students have an academic, more structured way to engage in the community if they want to. For on-site support, our coordinator, Tatana, he is wonderful. He's been with ISEP for many years, and he is very knowledgeable about the ISEP system and process. So he's always a good support system for students if they need. There's also on-campus health services on both campus options. There's the University Hospital in Ringsit, but also a clinic in Taprachan. So again, students are never far away from medical assistance if they need it. And the team there can also recommend service providers for mental health if it is needed. Overall, why Thammasat? It's a really world-class university that offers such a diverse type of courses across various fields of study. As I mentioned earlier, their business and political science is very well known. It's a very high quality program, but overall the affordable cost of living really is kind of a game changer for this program, where students' experience is going to be very rich, very cultural, and it won't have to come with a huge price point as well. The academic and extracurricular options for cultural immersion are also, there's several opportunities, and a lot of them we are really excited to provide. So if students or if you have any questions about them, I'm always happy to assist. Who should go? This program is for students that are seeking an academically rigorous experience. That's not meant to scare students away by any means, but we do want students to know that it will be academically challenging. They do have support systems through professors and through on-site staff, but maybe they should be a little bit more willing to kind of speak up if they do need help, or and people will be happy to assist, but it is going to be a little bit more challenging. Career-focused business majors, this is a wonderful program for them. A lot of professional and academic development that can be provided through this program. Also, students that are just interested in exploring Southeast Asia, this is a really unique crossroads and access point if students want to explore further throughout the region. And honestly, I mean, it's a really dynamic capital city, so this is going to give a rich cultural experience for students in a very unique setting. So for being in Bangkok, I mean, students always rave about the experience and the food and the culture, and the fact that they are so easily tied to it is a really great selling point for this program.
All right, well, thank you, Heather. So we will be sending a follow-up email that includes the budgets that you just saw, along with the one-sheet flyer, which you should have received in the reminder email this morning. We'll also be sending links to some of the university-created videos, so if you're looking for something to post on your social media accounts, you're welcome to use that. We'll be providing course descriptions and syllabi and descriptions on how to navigate those websites. We'll also have a list of other sites you might want to consider if you're looking specifically for something affordable, some links to student blogs about these programs. And I do want to mention tomorrow we are going live on Instagram to interview an alumnus from actually the University of Kansas. So I worked with him when he went abroad, and he went to Thammasat. And so we're going to be asking him about his experience and how it helped him land his job. And we encourage you to share that out with any students that might be interested so that they can join in and ask questions. All right, well, thank you all for joining us today. If you have any specific questions for us, we would be happy to answer them. You're welcome to just pop on and unmute yourself and ask in person, or type them into the chat. Oh, great question. The Insta Live is at 3 p.m. Eastern time. So, and we have posted about it on our Instagram today, and it's been in our stories. And if you'd like any of the graphics, we'd be happy to share those with you. Just let us know.
We also have a post on our main page that you can share in your own stories for that. And yeah, we look forward to seeing some of you there.
Hey, my name's Daniel. I'm an advisor at Chapman University. It's good to see everyone. I had a question specifically about PUCV, so maybe Monica or Heather could help me out. On the ISEP webpage, I see that there's two direct programs. There's one that's kind of advertised as Spanish specific, and one that includes, I think, the PIIE program that's both English and Spanish. But I think through the only Spanish program, students could also take classes in the PIIE program that has English and Spanish. So I was just kind of hoping to get more clarification on the differences between those two programs. and also specifically because I advise for business students, hoping to get some insight on the accessibility and the rigor of the business courses that are in Spanish at PUCV, to see if students have struggled in the past with those courses, to see how I can recommend that to my students.
Okay, should I speak?
Sure.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Monica Ramos. I work as assistant director at PUCV. Thank you for inviting us to take part of these workshops. In respect to your question, okay, yeah, I think we have discussed this with ISEP before, because it's basically the same academic offering. The difference will be for some students which group of classes they will focus depending on their language level. PUCV, it was mentioned in this presentation, offers international students the possibility to only study Spanish to improve their language level, or mix with other classes that are either taught in English or in Spanish. When it comes to that, the students have a lot of flexibility, because some of them don't feel confident enough to take classes in our academic departments, which is the main difference between what is taught in the PA program and PUCV. The PA program has an academic offering that is exclusive for international students, whereas PUCV academic offering is basically and mainly taught in Spanish. And some students do not feel comfortable enough to take classes with our academic department, so they just remain in our program. That would be the main difference for you to better advise your students. When it comes to the PA, we focus strongly to international students' command of Spanish. And when they feel more confident, they have an advanced level of language, then they start to pick classes in our academic departments, and they mix. Now, in terms of our business school, our business school is one of the schools, the colleges that are highly demanded. We actually have to advise our students to take to consider which classes they would like to take, because the available courses, the academic offering of that particular college is not fully available for international students. And we have had some students that are not able to take what they require, because those particular classes are not offered or are, as I mentioned, highly demanded. So our college, and I think I can answer with this to your question, it has a very strong rigor, and that's why it is one of the colleges that is very demanded by international students. European students, German students, French students, and students from the US, from business backgrounds, demand a lot on this particular college. So they are welcome, but with this particular consideration that it's a very demanded program, and the academic offering will not always be available for exchange international students. I don't know if I answered to your question.
Yeah, you did. That was very helpful. Thank you, Monica. To make sure I understand the difference between the two programs that ISEP offers, so students that enroll in the Programa Internacional de Estudiantil, that one is specifically Spanish focused, and students can take Spanish language classes and some classes in English, and they don't have access to the other academic courses. And if the student enrolls in the Spanish program, then they can enroll in all of the university courses, including the courses that are included in the PIIE program.
Yeah, Daniel, basically it's the level of Spanish that student has, that will allow them to take classes. Some of the beginners and intermediate students generally focus in the PA offering. The PA offering has classes that are language and culture, grammar, writing, the oral abilities, and everything that's related to building the students' competencies in the language. And then we have a set of courses that we inside the program call it current issues, which are part of the courses that were taught there, shown in the presentation, that are taught in English. There, the variety of courses does not only focus on topics like history or literature. We have actually one course that's related to environment. And then we have a set of courses that are taught in Spanish. That's basically social sciences and humanities, because as I mentioned before, we have those students who are not completely fully confident they are going to make it to take classes with locals. So they remain with us. But as I mentioned, the main difference is the language level of our students. What's the level they have? They will be able to select either from only PA courses or PUCV academic department courses.
Got it. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
No worries. Thank you, Daniel.
Anyone else have questions that they were not able to get answered in the chat? We had one great question about, is Thammasat AACSB accredited, which yes, it is. And we also had a question about ABET accreditation, which I will follow up on and we can include in our follow-up email. We will also be doing a session on engineering specific options later this summer, or in July if it's not summer for you. We will also, I believe Lizzie had asked a question about the availability of courses and how easy it is to get students into those courses. Heather, I don't know if you have specific information about that, but I believe that we feel like students should be able to take most of these courses. Is that right?
Yes, for those courses, ISEP students should have access to them. And if there's any specific concerns for students that need a really strict requirement, I can always follow up with the coordinator to see if there would be any issues. But for the most part, we are confident that ISEP students will be able to enroll.
All right, I'm looking through some of the other last questions. We did have one, are these all available as direct only? They are available as direct and exchange. Placement on exchange is more limited for most of these programs, if not all. So students will have a better chance of being placed, and it's also good to check your own cost of exchange just in case direct might be cheaper. I know when I was advising at the University of Kansas, for all three of these programs, direct was more affordable than ISEP exchange. And I'm trying, did we miss any other questions? There was a question about the Thai studies and it's only offered on the Thai Prachan campus for the Thai language, right? Any other questions?
Yes, I do have a question for the program in Chile. What is the lowest level of Spanish? And my question comes from, sometimes I have students that do not speak the language at all, but are wanting to get started. Is there a chance that they can do most of the courses in English and take a beginner level of Spanish language?
Monica, if you want to jump in and answer this, you're welcome to. I can also speak from sending students there. I believe that ISEP recommends that students have at least one semester. I think if you've taken Spanish like in high school, it often may be enough, but it would not necessarily be the most, the student may not get as much out of it if they don't have as much Spanish. There's also a January term, and it is possible, perhaps, Monica, maybe you can clarify that if a student did the January term, they would be ready to start in the spring semester and take the majority of their classes in English as well as those beginning Spanish level classes. Is that a possibility?
Okay, we do receive beginners, as I mentioned earlier. However, as Melody already mentioned, there's a requirement for students to have 1 semester at least of being in touch with the language, basically because they will need that to make their way in the life, taking the bus, buying the ticket in the bus station and things like that to survive. But students that we have had, they were beginners. They were able to focus in building their language skills while taking a couple of classes taught in English, and that's why our program is so flexible. We, as Melody also said, have what we call an early start program in February for the spring, our fall actually, and in July for your fall. So students that would like to feel more confident in terms of the language skills while arriving in Chile, an early start program has proved to be a very good tool for students to feel stronger. They do take advantage of this intensive 5 weeks program, and while they are finishing their intensive program, they will go through our orientation week for our semester program, and they will be already set up to engage in the activities of their semester, not only in terms of the academics, but also in terms of the life.
La Silea no te deja agarrar sus juguetes, tú no la dejas agarrar los tuyos.
So,
okay, te voy a poner Pepa.
So, and just to finish, to let you know that when it comes to beginners, we have professors that are particularly in touch with those students. We know beginners have very difficulties when they arrived, mostly in the first month or two, whether they are able to take this early start alternative or not. Still, students will be experiencing a push in their language skills because the host family helps a lot, and this is very important to mention. Our program has an immersion approach, a total immersion approach, which means that we make the most of the context where the student is immersed so that he uses the language. That's why our program has this very important focus for host families. Within the host family, the student is able to use the language. And when it comes to beginners, sometimes, depending on what level of beginner the student is, because there is not like a beginner levels, but various levels, the student will be matched with a family that has a couple of members that are able to communicate with the student in English. But little by little, the students say they don't want to speak in English, and they start to feel confident, and they start speaking in Spanish because the context pushes them, and that is something that students start experiencing in the first couple of months. Students that are beginners, in our experience, are very courageous students. They do advance a lot because they have as a purpose to make it to the other level, and they gain a lot because experience demands them a lot, and they are willing to take the challenge. So that's what I can tell you about our program and beginners.
Great, thank you, Monica. I will note, especially for US institutions, if you're sending students to take the beginning level of Spanish, your faculty on campus may test the students when they get back to like see what level of Spanish they're really at. And not all the classes may transfer back as perfect academic credit. So it is something to be aware of if you're sending an absolute beginner, but it certainly is. I can attest from sending a student in this exact situation that she came back and was able to test in a pretty high level. And I think that attested to both the student's experience as well as the great structure at the institution itself.
Heather, we have a question from Rosalind about the credit load at Thammasat and the tuition rate. So how many credits does a student have access to and can bring back for that $8,150 tuition rate?
15 to 18 credits.
Right, which
And
that's usually about 5 or 6 classes. No problem.
any other questions? All right, well, we'll be here again next week. We're doing a session next week on sites for underrepresented students. And we are also going to be, if you're an international member, we'll be also talking about opportunities within the United States. So we hope to see everyone again next week. And if you have any follow-up questions, you're welcome to email me and just respond to the reminder email that we sent out earlier. And again, we'll be sending up a follow-up email tomorrow with all of the information, and we'll try to answer some of these additional questions as well. So thank you all, and it was great to have you.